As I said when I took office about 18 months ago, it was our intent to increase the resources and the focus that this office has had on what I continue to believe are our core mission, our greatest mission in this office, and that's national security and public safety. As noticed in March, the one-year anniversary of our reorganization of the office, we've deployed Project Safe Neighborhood in 3 different cities: Newark, Camden, Jersey City. It's the first time in this office's history we've addressed more than one city in this district. And through Project Safe Neighborhood, we set up 3 violent crime initiatives, one in each of those cities. The intent to be working with our state and local partners. These efforts have been led by my criminal chief, John Gay, and his deputy chief, Mary Toscano, and a team that consists of about 25 of the most talented federal prosecutors that this office has ever seen. One of them is standing here today, Desiree Latzer. These folks dedicate their lives to protecting the citizens of Newark, and the results have been astonishing. Core to the mission is getting the most violent criminals off the street. I learned that from Director Ambrose when I sat down with him before I took the job. And we've basically followed the plan that he set out for me and taught me how to address these issues. And I think the results speak volumes. In the first year alone, criminal prosecutions are up 51% district-wide. 65% jump in violent crime prosecutions by this office. A 39% jump in the narcotics-related prosecutions. Crime is down 15% in Newark year over year. Shootings are down 30% in Newark year over year, down about 39% in comparable periods this current year. We've had more than 100 new cases arising from the Newark VCI just in our first year, and that doesn't include the arrests that were made today. Violent crime is also down 18% in Camden, and shootings are down over 60% in Jersey City. This model we just announced last week we're going to deploy in Trenton as well, and we're looking to target other cities, as this crime, the problem of violent crime is not just limited to these 3 cities. But we can't rest on our laurels, right? That's why we're here today. Violent crime is something that is just not going to go away, so we have to be vigilant and keep addressing it. So today, 27 people have been charged for their roles as members, associates, and suppliers of a Newark-based drug dealing organization. They distributed heroin and crack cocaine and used firearms to protect their illegal operation. 18 defendants were arrested today, and they're scheduled to appear today before Magistrate Judge James B. Clark. 5 defendants were already in custody, so that's 23 defendants in custody on the case. 4 remain at large. Importantly, 6 firearms were seized today, and folks, these are not like gun buybacks. These are not people walking in and voluntarily giving their guns back. These are guns that wouldn't otherwise be off the street if it wasn't for a case like this. 14 kilograms of heroin were seized, over $120,000 in cash taken off the streets. These defendants are charged with orchestrating and participating in a massive drug trafficking organization that pumped heroin and crack cocaine into the Newark streets. They operated out of an abandoned home in Newark, and they turned it into a fortress protected by illegal firearms. This stuff is straight out of a movie. In fact, that's what they named the organization. It's called C. Carter Boys. Called so because they're trying to imitate the 1991 film New Jack City. They had a fast food style drive-through window for quick and easy sale of these dangerous drugs. They had a shack in the back where they stored the drugs and the weapons that they used to protect what was built as virtually a fortress. These gang members are part of the Bloods and have been at war with the Crips. They use CK as their moniker to stand for Crip Killer, to disrespect their rival gangs. The investigation revealed that the leaders, Shahid Blake, also known as Shah Gotti or Bro, and Anderson Hutchinson, also known as Murder Ra, operated this massive drug market 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, flooding Newark streets with heroin and crack and making tens of thousands of dollars a day in revenue. The organization made efforts to fortify one of the abandoned houses by boarding up all the windows, making it impenetrable, using an old defense style to make sure that nobody could reach or get into the facility off the first floor. They had to go through the second floor to enter. In a backyard shed, they had various weapons that were recovered. I want to thank the ATF, the DEA, Newark Police Department for their cooperation. You're going to hear from them shortly. Essex County Prosecutor's Office, which is one of our greatest relationships, the way that we work with Acting Prosecutor Stevens. It's always seamless to make sure that we address these crimes by charging individuals either at the federal or state level to make sure that we get the most effective result in each case. He's not here today, but I know Sheriff Fontoura sent his undersheriff. Once again, Sheriff Fontoura has been in this city for far longer than I can remember, too long, but has really dedicated his life to this project. And the New Jersey State Police, who aren't here today, but under the direction of Colonel Patrick Callahan, they've dedicated numerous resources to the VCI, and have really made a difference in the way that we're addressing crime. There are numerous other police departments here, too many for me to name, but state and local cooperation is essential to our success, and seeing it through these VCIs is really a special thing. I'm going to turn it over to Director Ambrose right now, who's going to make some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenito. Before I begin, I would like to thank the U.S. Attorney for his partnership and his commitment since he has taken over this office. Not only I know I'm selfish, but I worry about the city of Newark, but it made Newark a safer place. His office, his assistant U.S. attorneys, and his first assistant, Rachel Honing. So we do enjoy the relationship and the partnership that we have because it makes Newark a safer place. To the ATF and the DEA, and especially the FBI is not here, Greg Erie, for our relationship and our partnerships. You know, that's who I have to thank, and Prosecutor Stevens and the Sheriff, why Newark is a safer city today, because of the partnerships. The real benefactors today are the residents of Newark, the community, the people that came forward and reported drug dealing and violence in the area. They live in the area, they have lived in the area of the South Ward of Newark on South 20th Street. They're concerned. I want to thank them. And today, it's safer for them to live and go to sleep tonight without hearing gunshots and people blowing their horns and drug dealing going on. So today is a great day for the citizens, for the officers and the agents that work the case. Great job as always. And I want to thank the ATF for being a partner that stayed with this and worked together, and the U.S. Attorney's Office bringing charges. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I can't echo enough what Director Ambrose said in terms of the partnerships that we have, especially our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office. So, Craig, thank you very much for the assistance that you provided us and all of our partners. As the ATF Special Agent in charge of the Newark Field Division, I'm extremely proud of the work conducted by the men and women of ATF and our partners. Together with the assistance from multiple law enforcement agencies, we have collectively made the streets of Newark and beyond safer. To those who think that crime and violence are the path forward, consider this a warning that we in law enforcement are prepared to stop you, and you may be the next target of investigation for prosecution. Our efforts collectively exemplify ATF's frontline mission combating violent crime and have illustrated the positive results attainable when all levels of law enforcement and the community are focused together. Today brings us one step closer. The ATF Newark Field Division will continue to work with our partners in an effort to combat violent crime and make all of our communities safer. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
You spoke about the residents in Newark who came forward. Typically, especially in these kinds of situations, there's a lot of fear associated with that. Tell us how you dealt with that, those concerns by residents who came forward.
So first of all, we don't get into details about anyone or any of the people who gave us information, any of that type of information. Look, the way you deal with it is by making the streets safer and by actually effectively getting those criminals out of the neighborhood when the crime is reported.
The two members who are at large, what can you tell us about them?
Well, there's 4 people at large.
Okay.
We can't give you any information about them because that could compromise our ability to arrest them.
Does this make a dent in the drug trade? Put this in perspective. Is this a big deal?
Look, it's always a big deal to take an organization off the street, but we're also not so, so bold as to think we've ended a problem that is going to go on and on. Now the issue is finding the drug dealers who are going to try and take over the hole that is left in the market. That's why you have to be vigilant and keep it going. That's the whole purpose of the violent crime initiatives, because it's not just a case-by-case approach to addressing the gang problem and the drug problem. It's a systematic approach where we share information cooperatively between the federal, state, local law enforcement so that each case rolls into another. I couldn't be clearer, if I wasn't clear before, this is just the beginning, and we intend to continue to address these problems. We intend to use the cases we make to make additional cases down the road.
And you talked about trying to catch the people, trying to fill the void. How do you go about doing that?
By sharing information, by being vigilant, by keeping investigations going, by not just prosecuting each individual for the one singular thing that we charge in the document, but by watching them and seeing how it fits into the larger picture and sharing intelligence with folks like the Newark Police Department, the ATF, the DEA. It's an ecosystem, just like it is in corporate America. And you need to know what role every person plays in that system and who it is most likely to fill the void. It's one of the things that Director Ambrose taught me right when I came on board. It's not just addressing the top tier. It's not just hitting the folks that are going to make the biggest headline, the biggest splash. We need to figure out who it is most likely to replace those people.
Has this group of individuals been tied to any violent crimes here?
Absolutely. There is violent crime associated with all gang and drug trafficking organizations. As we've talked about at other press conferences, drug dealers can't call the police when somebody steals their money, invades their territory, or infringes upon their element. Now, we can't talk about anything outside the four corners of the document.
Can you tell me about shootings, any murders, anything like that? Any specifics, no numbers?
Yeah, again, we're not going to talk specifically, but our shooting response team is looking at some of these individuals for open shootings and homicides with the prosecutor's office. But it's too premature to speak about it, but they are being looked at for other crimes and violence in that area.
Mr. Carpino, talk a little bit more about this location, this neighborhood, this fortress. I mean, the fortress itself would have been the fact that the first floor has been sealed up. Did they do anything else inside to make it a fortress? How maybe you or the director can talk about its impact in the neighborhood itself during these 24/7 hours of operation?
Brian, this area on South 20th Street, right in from Clinton Avenue, been a location that's been an issue for some time now. Within the last 2 years, we've had several acts of violence, shootings, shots fired, homicides that occurred. As I indicated earlier, we've had several complaints from area residents complaining about the area, and I think that when we all got together and spoke about that area, the ATF took the lead with us, the Newark Police, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and this is our results today.
Is there any indication whether the drugs that are being sold stay in Newark? Are they going to the suburbs? Do you know?
Well, I don't want to speak too much, but because it is an ongoing investigation, but we could say that there are drugs that were in Newark and the suburbs, in Morris County area through the investigation, but it's still under investigation, so we can't talk specifically about it.
Is there some kind of pipeline that is?
I can't, right now the investigation's ongoing, so we can't talk about that.
Can you clarify, I just want to make sure we're clear, the four remaining suspects at large, in other cases, you all put out a bolo, look for these suspects. You asked for the media's attention. That's not what you want in this case? To help find them, to identify them?
Well, I think that what the U.S. Attorney indicated is that there's active teams out there now looking for them. I think that later on today, they will issue more information and photos, so we don't compromise the officers that are out there looking for them.
It seems like a lot of these suspects are not particularly young, relatively speaking, of guys in the 30s and 40s. Is that unusual?
I don't think it's necessarily unusual. However, I think it'll become clearer at the appearances today, the criminal histories, things like that. Look, we have a problem in Newark, in every major city in New Jersey, that is from the juvenile stage to the veterans of the game. The difference is really the impact that we can have when we make an arrest on somebody like this, where we believe we're going to be able to get significant time to send a message. Because, you know, as you can see, this case to me personifies the glorification of drug dealing and, you know, gang crime in Newark. The fact that they tried to model this off of a movie that clearly has been an inspiration to a lot of, you know, the gang activity, the idolization of this stuff. So, you know, what comes along with it is a heavy price tag, and here, you know, we think significant exposure for a lot of these defendants.
What kind of exposure?
Some of these people will be facing career offender status, which could lead to life in prison.
Mr. Carpenito, the arrests themselves today, can you get into any detail? Was anybody resisting arrest? Were all of your various the officers from the various agencies, any of them had a gun pulled on them or injured in any way? Do we have any information on that?
No, we have no information about anything like any sort of a shooting, any sort of violence related to it. Other details about their arrest we're not going to get into because that could compromise the active and ongoing investigations.
But nobody was injured?
No violence. No shootings. No.
On the law enforcement side?
Nope. No.
Few of the defendants were arrested on state charges during the course of the investigation, released, and then continued their role in the operation. Any concern about how that process played out and identifying these defendants?
Anything on it?
Well, criminal justice reform is certainly something that is new to the state of New Jersey and is a work in progress. I'm confident that the proper methodology was used in terms of individuals who are in fact in custody and released. However, this certainly puts them in a different situation when they go back in front of the judge in all likelihood.
Director Ambrose, can you talk about the community and their relief after seeing this pariah in this community now being eliminated? I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls to that effect.
Well, I think it's twofold. I think that when the community does make a complaint and they see it's addressed, and this was addressed, you know, over some time, and it was, I would say, swiftly. So it's positive results, and anytime that happens, the community is happy when their community becomes safer. During this investigation, there are some guns that were taken off the street, so it even makes it even better for the community. But the community is happy when they see results, that when they make a complaint, that it's followed up.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
You want to say a couple words?
So from an ATF standpoint, just wanted to highlight a couple of things and why we were so heavily involved in the investigation that we were. And anytime that there's violence associated with any city or any area where we have personnel, of course, we want to do what we can do to help out. Our National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, or NIBIN, as it's called, is going to be heavily utilized in this investigation to try to figure out exactly how many crimes of violence these firearms were involved in. Our tracing abilities, we'll look at the firearms tracing and make a determination in terms of where these firearms are coming from, right? So we definitely want to stem the flow of firearms into the city, into the area. We want to figure out where they're coming from, and we'll run that to ground. Right now, the investigation is still ongoing, so we're still collecting evidence and still conducting interviews, but rest assured that we will, in fact, do what we can to figure out exactly where these firearms are coming from, if they're associated with any other crimes of violence, and then work with our partners like we have in the past and will continue to do in terms of trying to stem the violence in the city. So just wanted to highlight that from the ATF perspective.
If the firearms come from straw buyers, for example, in another state, is there anything you can do about it?
Absolutely. We can coordinate with our field divisions in that particular state to figure out exactly how the guns were procured and how they made their way to New Jersey. That's what we definitely want to figure out, like how the guns are getting here. That's a priority of ours. And so we will reach out to our field divisions in those areas and figure out how they made their way to New Jersey, to the city of Newark.
But I mean, is there anything you can do about somebody legally, quote unquote, legally passing a background check, buying, being a straw purchaser in a state where you can buy multiple firearms at once?
Well, we'll have to work with our field divisions and then work with the prosecuting officers both there and here and try to figure that part out.
I was looking at the release, I see the different types of firearms that were recovered. Are you able to confirm the specific number of firearms?
Right now, that evidence is still coming in, so I don't want to give you a specific number because there may be a firearm or two that I've left out, but they're still coming in.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.